Let's hot reload now. Hit send. Okay, email sent successfully. All right. So to check, let's go back, hit over to the sent tab, and here we should be able to see our email that just now we sent. So as you can see, this is another test to check sending from app test 123. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Yash Makan and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we'll be making our complete email application using Flutter and Python. So with that being said, let's jump right in. So first things first, let's see like what we have to make. So as you can see, this is the email application that we are going to make in this video. And it is a minimalist application that will be having an inbox, sent, and a star, right? And their emails they can see, and then they can also draft the email as well, and then send that email. So we'll be integrating our backend, and the backend will be having real emails that we have for example, in our Gmail account as well. So we'll be calling the Gmail API using our Python backend and then integrating that with our Flutter application. So first things first, let's focus on our Flutter application UI part and then we'll focus on our backend part. So let me open up my Android Studio, and here let's create a new Flutter project. I'll choose my Flutter path. I'll hit over to next and I'll give it a Flutter project name. So it will be email mobile application. Let's hit create. It will make our new project for us. Perfect, right? So first things first, I will remove all of the boilerplate code that we have here. All right. Then here we will change the class name also. So according to our folder structure, so let's make our folder structure as well. First will be our views where screens will add. Then I'll be having a models folder. So here models will add. Then we will have one managers. So not managers. So let's just add here API. So here all of the backend API integrations we can do, right? So this is our main views, models, and then API. And then let's have our constants as well. So I'll create one folder for constants where we can store our strings, colors, all those constants inside a Dart file. So this will be our folder structure. Inside the views, we'll be having two screens. So our first screen will be email list screen. And next will be email send screen. So these are the two screens that I'm talking about, email list screen and email send screen, two screens. Also, when the first time we'll be opening our application, it will ask for our Gmail authentication. So we have to first authenticate our Google account so that we can fetch our emails from the Gmail account that we have. So that authentication part also we will look into that. So here inside the home page, we'll navigate first to our email list screen. So let's name the class here. I'll copy the class name and move over to our Dart file. So let's create a Dart file, email list screen dot dart, and first import material dot dart, and let's create our stateless class for now, email list screen. Makes perfect sense. Now let's make our screen. So I'll create a scaffold, and for now in the body part, let's just add center child text test. So just to check if everything is working or not. test file add, and in the main.dart, we will import our screen that we have add a const. Now let's open up our emulator and try the application. So our application is launched, as you can see, and here we can see the text that I mentioned here, test dot dot dot. So here that is also coming. Now let's make the UI that we want. So right, so I have the image right here. All right, so first things first, let's create our app bar. So in the app bar, you can see like here we have one app bar, and there we will be using the tab bar as well. So let's just create a preferred size. Height we can create, so size dot from height, and then height we can pass, and then child here we can pass. So for example, column. So inside the email list screen, we have made a tab controller. So this tab controller we have made, and in the init state, we'll initialize that. So in the app bar, I have made this app bar here with the preferred size widget. And then inside that, we have assigned the title as email. And then we have also made some sized box for some spacing here. After that, I have assigned a tab bar here. So the tab bar will look like this: inbox, sent, and star, right? Once that is done, now let's make a tabs. So I'll assign it to a list first. So tabs we'll make, and let me uncomment this part. So list of email tab and then tabs, and every email tab will basically contain the name and the icon that we are going to use for that. So for example, in the first one, there will be inbox and icons dot inbox we can use, right? Like that, I'm going to make list here. So let me just copy paste all these. And then the second one is sent. So I'll make it sent. And the last one is star, right? Now here send I will use, and we don't have a rotated one, I think, right? So send outline we are going to use, and for this star we are going to use star border or outline, anyone you can use. So inside the models, we will be making an email model. So I'll create a class email model, and it will have final string text and final icon data, material.dart icon data. Let's add these fields, and let's import this email tab in our email list screen as well, right? So here tabs.length will show, and then for each tab, what we will be doing is here tabs index dot text, and the icon data we have to show. Other than that, const we will add, right? So here we have the tabs that we wanted, 3 tabs. Makes sense. Now inside the main.dart, first I'll remove this debug banner and make it to false. All right. Now here in the arc, as we can see, we have these tabs: inbox, sent, and star. Further than that, list we have to show here. So how the list will look like is a conversation. So for example, a email message. So I'll create another model here for our email. Okay, I created a folder. So let me create a Dart file here known as email. Now it will contain some more important information like final string, profile image, final string, username, final string, subject, final string, body, final date time, right? And here final. I can make a enum as well, but let's not make that right now. And I'll add these fields. Also, we'll make these as optional parameters. So I'll be adding question mark after all of these. So it's not mandatory to pass all of this data, right? Perfect. So now here instead of test, we'll be having a list view dot builder. I'll create context index, and based on that, now this email we will show. Okay, so here let's create list first. So I'll create a list of email, which will be emails, and I'll import the email model as well. So now let's create the model body date time dot now dot subtract duration day 1, or let's do hours 3. Then date time we have assigned, then profile image we will assign, subject we will assign, and username we will assign. All right, let me save this image, save image, and let's open the image here. Open in preview. Okay. So I'll copy this text, subject, and I'll paste it here. Same thing for the username. Profile image, we'll take a static one for now. And for the body as well, I'll copy this text and I'll paste it here. Right. Something like that we will show. And here let's go to, let me close this. I'll go to Unsplash and search for person, and let's take any image. So I will just copy image address and I'm going to paste that address. So this is like an email that I will be sending, the first email that we'll get here. Okay, so in the emails we'll have that. I'll create item count as emails.length, email widget, I'll create one which will take a email, and that will be emails at index. Makes sense. Now inside the folder I'll create another folder for widgets,
And inside the widgets folder, as you can see here, I'll be creating one new Dart file known as email widget. This email widget will have this data if this list style we'll make. So I'll import the stateless, not here. I'll first import the material.dart, create a stateless class known as email widget, right? And here it will take final email. So I will import the email model and then add that in our final argument. Now I'll import the package. Yeah. So here let's create our list style. So better to use list style. I'll try with that. If it works, then it's fine. Otherwise, we'll make our own widget using row and columns. So here leading will be our circle avatar and the background image will be network image email dot profile image. Makes sense. And if it is null, then we won't show that. So if it is not equals to null, only then network image will be called, otherwise null. And just in case, background color will pass as nothing for now, so let's just remove that. We'll see that later. So profile image. Second is the child that we have. So here, yeah, so here the child will be title, and the title will create as a text for now. So text email dot, and then we'll name it as subject, right? No, so here first the username is coming, so I'll create the username. Then the subtitle will be a column, and here text email dot subject, and then body. Right. And in the trailing part, what I will do is I'll create another column. I'll create a text, and here we have a package in pubdev ago date time. Yeah, so this package we can integrate so that we can get the ago timings, right? Like a minute ago, 7 hours ago, 10 seconds ago. So this we can get. So I'll copy that and I will add this as well in the pubspec.yaml file, not log file. So pubspec YAML file, and I will add that below our Cupertino icons. Great. Once it is added, let's ignore the dependencies, and here as you can see that I'll just copy this and paste it here. Get time algo, I'll import the package and I'll pass the date time. Okay, So this will create our list tile. So let's hot restart once, run tab. As you can see, our email is ready. Here what I'll do is inside the email widget, the column that we have made for the subject and body, I'll add a cross axis alignment as start so that it will be left aligned properly. Makes sense. Now the body font size I will decrease. So email body, so the style will be text, so theme dot of context dot text theme dot body small. Right, so it will just differentiate a bit from other styles that we have. Also the user name or subject I will make bit bolder. So for example, body large, no, body medium, yeah, that's it. So this way we'll be having our email as well. Now let's go back, and here instead of builder I'll add divide list view dot separated. So now it will ask for separated builder as well. So context comma index, and then let's add a divider here, because as you can see inside the image, after every mail that we have, a line is there. So for that divider I will add, just in case, to add that line as well. So now let's copy the email multiple times to check how the UI is looking. So I'll copy paste it multiple times and I'll hot restart, and you can see that we can see line now, but the line is too thicker than this line, and the width also we have to decrease. So I'll go back to the divider, and here first things first, what I will do is I will add a intent here, or I will add a thickness first as 0.6 to make it more thinner, right? Something like 0.3 will work, and then I will create a intent. So this intent will be acting like that. So for example, if I make it 20, you can see that from the left side it is decreased by 20. So here what I'll do is I will use mdof.size.width 0.3. I'll remove the const, and yeah, 0.2. Alright, same I will add our end intent as well. So from both the sides it should be same. So 0.25. to 1.8. Yeah, something like that mails will come. So for the inbox, sent and star, based on the tab that we are on, the email will automatically change. Awesome. So our front end part for the email listing screen is almost done, right? Here I'll create one floating action button as well. So here in this scaffold, I'll create a floating action button. And here we are using material 3 that we have in Flutter. So the floating action button will look like square by default. So I'll create a icons.edit, and you can see that it is rectangular with border radius by default, not like material 2 where it is circular. So I am fine with the design that we have here. Okay, So let's move on to the next screen that we have, that is our email send screen. So let's create another folder inside our views known as email send screen. Okay, it's already there. So I will just create the file. So new dart file, paste the name, and then here this we have to make. So above we'll be having one app bar, and after that content we will show. Makes sense. Now I will copy and paste the entire code from the listing screen. We will not be having any email or tab controller. So I will remove these things. Also this mixin I will remove because tab controller is not needed. Right, so I will remove that as well. This is also not needed. And the class name I'll change it to email send screen. Now this class will take a email, whatever email we want to open here and see the data. Okay. So we have all of the data. Now the init state is not required because we'll be having the data by default for that particular email. And so here preferred size is also not required. So I will remove that and create a default app bar. Right. And here we'll be creating a title with the text, and there will be actually no text here, but we will be having some action. So icon button, icons dot left. So we have one chevron left and a chevron right icon in the app bar. All right. I'll format the code. Makes sense. So now on clicking this floating action button, we will navigate to our email send screen. So floating action button, on clicking navigator dot push material page route context, and the screen name is email send screen, and we will send a email. So this screen is for sending an email. So email send screen. Right, so let's just create it by default as nullable. All right. Now inside our email send screen, we have a few errors. So what I am going to do is I'm going to remove this or comment this out for now. Now I'll click and I will be navigated to our email screen. Now this buttons, this left and right button will only be accessed when it is for a particular email. So I'll create a boolean first. Boolean is send email widget dot email not equals to null. So here what we are doing is we are checking if it is a send email scenario or a scenario for the reading email for a specific email that we have. If it is not, if it is equals to null, that means send email we have to do. So here if it is send email case, then we will show nothing, right? So then we won't show left, right, only data they can add and submit that. Otherwise, if they are clicking on this, then they will be navigated and see the data. All right. So first, let's do the clicking part on the list style. So here I'll search for the list style, and on tap, what I will do, same logic that we added inside our email listing screen. So here inside the floating action button, we will navigate to our email send screen. Right here. And I'll import the screen. Now here we will pass our email as well. So widget dot emails, and I'll remove the const. Okay, so not widget, directly we can access the email. All right. So now I'll hot reload, and now on clicking, I will be getting the left and right arrow keys. So let's design our send screen UI further. So inside the body, right now I added a list tile as well. So here the leading will be the image and the name, right? And subtitle we won't be needing here, and the trailing is fine. So subtitle I'll remove. Yeah, something like that it will show, right? So 3 hours ago, now this column also we will not be needing. So I will remove this column. Yeah. So we are getting a mail from name, that person's image, and then how much time ago that mail came, right? That we can see. After this list style, so as you can see in the design also, this is the flow, and then we have to show the subject and then the body. So here I'll say the subject. So first I'll add some sized box with some height, let's say 16, right? And then I will create a text for the subject. So I will say widget dot email. So let's do one thing. I'll create this as stateless only, so that it will be easier for us to access the email. So email dot, and then I can access the subject from here, right? So first let's check if email not equals to null, then email dot subject, otherwise it will be an empty string. All right, so subject we will have. So now I have to go back because I changed the state. Yeah, so okay, let's hot restart. So on clicking again, there we go, subject will come. Now for the column, set the cross axis alignment as start, and let's create the same padding. So what I will do is I will create a column of children with, or better would be that I will remove the padding from list style only. All right. So let's remove this column. Here you can see that the list style has a padding by default, content padding, and the content padding by horizontal is 16. So I will remove the content padding, set it to 0, and I will add the padding to the entire column that we have above as symmetric horizontal 16. Makes sense. Now, subject that we have, I will add the style using the theme.of context dot text theme dot, and then we can use something like a heading large maybe. Let's try with that. Okay, so this is quite large, so I will set it to medium. Yeah, so let's try small. So heading small is fine, so let's go with that. And then after the subject we have to show the body. So basically the body will usually can be an HTML form, so it will be in HTML form. So we will be handling that part later on in the video, right? Once we have integrated the backend, then we will integrate the HTML viewer package inside our Flutter. But for right now, just for the front end sake, what I will do is I will integrate the body as a normal text that we have. Okay, so here the body will come, and let's change the style back to body, let's say medium. Yeah, something like that. Also, what I will do is we have our email model. Let's go there. So here the email model, and we are making list of emails, right? There we go. So we are making this list of emails. So let me go and create a lorem ipsum generator and get some random text, right? So for example, let's take this text. I'll copy it and let's paste this text inside the body. Right, so I'll hot restart. Now as you can see, the text is taking too much. We want to limit that. So how can we do that? So let's go to our email widget. So this is our email widget, and here you can see that in the subtitle we are passing subject and the body. So this is the subject line and this is the body text that we have. Okay, for better sake, let me just change the color of the body to something like colors.gray or black 26. Okay, 26 is also, so let's go with 54. Yeah, something like that. And then here the body that we are having, I'll set that dot substring 0 comma 30. So let's go with 30, and I'll use string interpolation. Okay, so 30 characters is too less, right? So let's go with 100. Alright, so now you can see that the below we are getting errors. So here what I will do, so email.body dot length, if it is greater than 100, then we'll say 100, otherwise email body dot length. Makes sense to me. And likewise here, if the email body dot length greater than 100, then only we will show the dot dot dot, otherwise we will not show this. Okay, so you can see that we've got some text, and now instead of using 100 here, I will create a variable That will be email body limiter. And let's create a variable on top here. Right, so I'll put it here. I'll format the code. Let's go with 80. Yeah, I think 70. Yeah, okay, makes sense. So here, if I click on it, I can see the subject and the body of it. Makes sense. And if I go from here, you can see send here we will be doing. So here I will show mine image. Right, so the sending part also we will see later. So this one is done. So here subject, name, info will come for that email. Similarly, we'll show the mails for different categories that I have in my mail. Awesome, makes sense. Then inside the send, what I will be doing is here, as you can see, we don't have a draft screen here. So instead of that, I will be passing a email here. So the photo we will not be passing. So let me just remove the photo. So let's create a bull getter here inside the email send screen. This one is send email. Okay, now this image that we have, that will only come is send email, then leading will be null. Also the trailing will also be null as well. So here inside we have our trailing as well. So that will be null as well if it is send email. Okay, now the title. So the title, if it is send email, it will be a text field instead. And the decoration, input decoration, hint text will be email address. Right. And what I'll do is this text field, I'll create a row, children, create the text field, and then I'll add a text @gmail.com at the end and wrap this text field with flexible. Right, so you can enter the email address here. The floating action button I'll remove from here. Yeah. So if you go to the draft page, email address you can enter whoever email address you want to write. So Yash Makan.word. That's it. That will be your @gmail.com. Then subject and body you can write here. So I'll just create that as well. Let's create the floating action button, but instead of this, what I will create is an elevation button with a child and a on press, and the child will contain text for send. Right, so send they can do by clicking this button right here. Awesome. Also inside the app bar, let's create a title because it's looking like a build does now. So is send email. If it is true, otherwise it will be null. Then text draft email, for example. Let's name it as. All right. And inside our email list screen, let's go inside the preferred size and right, so I'll add just the tab bar, email, and then here we can draft. Now after that you can enter the email address, then you have to enter the body. So here the list style we have, after that we have these things. So if is send email, if it is not send email, only then we will show this, otherwise we will show this. So now what we will show here, I will create a text field and the text field will be for the subject. Decoration, input decoration, hint text, and here I will add subject. Right, so email, subject, and description, these things I have added here. So after entering all this data, send they can do, and then API call will happen and send the email. So it will come inside sent mails. Okay, so our front end screen is done now. This floating action button that we have, I will remove that if it is send email. If it is send email, then we want that, otherwise we want null here. Okay, makes sense. This I added in the app bar. Let me remove it from here and add it inside our floating action. See, so send email now we are not getting. Perfect, makes sense. Now I'll add const for the entire file. All right, so our screen front end Flutter side of things are done, as you can see. Let's do one more thing and create the logic to go left and right as well. So on clicking left and right, we will be having a list. So here you can see that inside the email listing screen, we have one list here. So I'll take this list out and put it in the email models. Right. Now I will create one more field here for final string ID. And what this ID will do is that based on the ID, we can able to navigate easily I'll make it required. So for now, let's name it as 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Makes sense. Now on the email send screen, we have the app bar, and on clicking the left arrow, basically what we will be doing is that we will be getting the emails list and then dot index where and then element dot id is equals to, and then we will do our widget, not widget, email dot id. Now we will get the email index as well. So this index where will return back the int for us. So int is current email index, right? What we have to do is that we will be navigating now. So like we were doing inside our listing screen, same logic. Emails current email index -1, and I'll remove the const. Okay. But the problem with this logic, if it hits 0, then we can't do like this, right? So I have to add a condition if the current email index is equals to 0. If it is the first email, then we cannot go back further. Otherwise, we can go back. Same logic I will copy and add in my right arrow as well. But instead of subtracting 1, I'll appending 1 here. And then I will be checking not is equals to 0, but emails dot length -1. Based on that, I will be checking. Okay, so now let's hot restart and check if everything works right now. So here on clicking, I am getting the error and on the right arrow doesn't work. So if it is not equals to 0, then only. So I added equals to. Okay, let's go back. So left arrow we can't click, but right we can move. Right I can move, and now right I cannot. Right, but the problem right now is I have to go back to get to the home page. So I have to go a lot back. So to fix that issue, right now what I'll do is I'll make it as push replacement. So it will replace the current screen with the arrow screen that we have. So we can move left and right, and then we'll be going back to our home page. Awesome. So the front-end Flutter code is done. Let's move over to our Python script and then make the backend logic for our API. So let's close the emulator and I'll open up PyCharm. Email backend application, I'll hit create. So here we go, we have our new Python project set up. And now what I'll be doing is let's create our backend API. So I'll be making the API using FastAPI in this video. So let's make, so from FastAPI import fast. Okay, so first let's do one thing and import our FastAPI library. So I'll move over to Python packages and then FastAPI. I will hit install package. This will install the FastAPI package for us. Now I can create our FastAPI app. Also, we'll be needing UVCon for this. So I'll download UVCon as well. UVCon is basically the server that we have to run the FastAPI. So now I will import UVCon as well. If name is equals to main, UVCon.run, and then we'll pass the app. Let's create a dummy endpoint as well now. So here I'll create a endpoint at app.get test async def test endpoint. We'll be getting the request and then I will just return a JSON status true. Alright. Let's try to run this app. So let me open up the terminal and let's run python main.py, and you can see that our backend is running on local host 8000 port. So I'll hit on our endpoint test we have created. So let's check that, and we are getting status true. That means our backend is running. Alright, now we have to create two endpoints. So let's create that. The first one will be our get emails. Next one will be our send email. Right. So get email and send email. This is what we will be making. Also, we have to get the user as well. So I'll be making the logics for the authentication, because we have to authenticate if the user is true or not. So send email, get email, and then we'll be needing one more for authenticate. This endpoint we'll use to store the Google token JSON inside our backend. Right. So this is what we are going to use here. Alright. So these three, authenticate, send email, and get emails, three endpoints we will be making in this backend part. For the authenticate, let's first create our models. So let's create a models folder, and inside that I'll be making one Python file for our user model. So we'll be having the ID. So we'll be creating ID and email, right? I'll also import fields as well. So from tortoise, import fields. So let me explain here what we are doing. We are making a model that will contact or that will communicate with our database and then share data between. It can store the data and fetch the data from the database, and we'll be using the user model for that. Basically, we'll be storing the user ID, the user email address, and one more thing we'll be using, that will be our Gmail payload, and fields dot, and it will be of type JSON field. So this JSON will store email and ID. Now first and foremost, let's include the library for our tortoise ORM. So tortoise ORM. Okay, so this is not the library. Yeah, this one. Tortoise ORM, as you can see. Perfect. So let's install the package. And there we go. The package is installed. And it is JSON. So SON is capital. Perfect. So there we go. We have our user model set up as well. Right. So now what we'll be doing, we have to authenticate. So all of these endpoints we have to only call if the user is authenticated, right? So the way we'll be fetching the token, the Gmail payload, is using the email address. So for every API, for getting the emails also, we'll be needing our email address. So what I will do is I will create another model here that will be request model, that will be inheriting the base model that we have. This base model will come from the Pydantic. So we'll import that, and then this request model will include just email, which will be a string. That's it. Now this request model I will call right here inside our get emails, for example. So request model, and I'll import the model from here. Perfect, makes sense. Now our request for this is done. We'll be getting the request.email address, and based on that we have our user. So let's import our user model as well. Inside the init.py, I'll write from user import user. Perfect. So here I'll import this. So user dot, now we are fetching. So first I need to get the email token JSON that we have. So I'll use filter email is equals to request dot email, and I get that, and let's do await. So this will return a user which will be of type user. So this get is returning a query single, right? So let's remove the type annotation. So user dot okay. So here let's try to access Gmail payload, and yes, we can access the Gmail payload. Now this Gmail payload we'll be using for our logical part. So let's create another Python file for our email manager. This will be a class for email manager which will handle everything for us. Getting the mails, sending mails, all of the data it will only manage. So inside the def init, it will take one thing, that is this Gmail payload, and we will store this Gmail payload here. Great. So once this Gmail payload is stored, I will also email manager. Great. I'll import that as well. Now this is get emails that we are calling. So I'll be also getting one more thing, that is our type. So as you know that we have inbox, sent and star. So based on that, we'll be getting a request type as well. So request type will be a integer value, that will be 0, 1 and 2. Right. So based on that, request type, if request type is equals to 0, then manager dot fetch inbox. I'll create one messages list, and this will be giving us the messages. Elif, I'll be doing the exact same thing. But here we'll be fetching our sent. So fetch sent. And let's do the exact thing again for 0, 1. And here we will fetch our start. Right. And if none of it works, we will return status false, message invalid, request type is passed. So this request type I'll be making as camel case instead. Invalid request type is passed. Alright. Otherwise, we will be getting our messages here. Now I will map the messages for every message that we'll be getting. I'll map that message, and based on our model that I'm going to create, class message, which I will make as data class. So let's import data classes as well. Now here this message will include what details we want. So we want in a particular message the name, date, time, subject, body, email. These things we'll be needing. So I'll import message here, comma messages. Now this message will require a few things that we will pass here. And this messages we will be returning as this would be a list of JSON. Inside the message, I will create this, and as dict also we will import, and this will be to JSON. Dot to JSON. Now we have to pass the data that we'll pass just in a moment. Perfect. So this is the logic for the get emails, how we'll be getting the emails. Let's see the send email as well. So let me change this to get email request. Let's create a send email request as well. And the API will always be post here because we'll be sending some data information. This send email one put we can make. Now this send email request, I will create the model as well. So class send email request on top of base model, and then this will import. So here, while sending the email, what we'll be needing? Subject, body, email. So we'll be needing email, string. We'll be needing to email, that will be string. We'll be needing subject, string, and we'll be needing body. Now we can make it more complex, like adding CCs, and we can add files and more stuff here. But for now, subject, body, and email is sufficient. I'll import this model as well. So once we have that, we simply have to do the same thing to fetch our user and get it, right? So request.email, we'll be getting the manager dot send email function we will use, and this function will take a few things, and those few things we will be having in our model. So here it will take two emails, subject and body. So we can simply pass those things to the model from our request dot comma. Let's format the code. Yeah, send email it will do, and then it will return the status as true, and it will return the so message we can return email is successfully sent. Awesome, makes sense. Now when we want to authenticate a user, that time we have to create it, right? So I will be creating. So while authenticating, we have to pass few things again. So get email, set send email, and auth request I will create now. Now in the auth request, we will pass the email. All these things we will pass: email and the Gmail payload, which will be of type dict. Okay, so inside our main.py, this is the test endpoint, nothing to do here. I will also remove this part. Here, let's make it request, auth request, import the model. Now we will be making our user model and storing that in our database, right? So here I will do is create, get or create, or better, let's do get or none request dot email. If user we have, then we will simply update that. So we are getting or none. If we have some data, then user dot update so user dot filter dot delete, and then let's create another one, user dot create, and this time I will pass the Gmail token as well, Gmail payload, request dot Gmail payload, and yeah, create it will do, and we will get our user back. Else, if we got none there, that means it does not exist. So we can, so let's do like this. So if the user exists, we'll delete the user and then we'll create it again. And then we will say the message user authenticated successfully. Alright, makes sense. Also inside our Flutter part, what I'll do is I'll also integrate the local DB. So there we don't have any local storage. We have to store the email because everywhere we will be passing our email ID, right? So I will need to store that. So here let's create inside lib a folder for local DB. And inside that I will create two files that will be local DB routes and local DB dot dart. Now inside the local DB routes dot dart, I have made class here for static const string user route. So here user details will store in this particular box, and inside the local DB, so basically here what I am doing inside local DB is that I have imported the package Hive Flutter, and then I'm initializing that package, and then after that we can get the email and then set email as well for any user inside the local device. So let's do one thing, and inside our pubspec YAML, let's add this package as well. So Hive Flutter we will add. Alright, so now local DB issues are gone. Now in the main.dart we have to initialize as well. So here before the run app, we have to run local DB dot initialize. And let's add await here and make this function as asynchronous. Now in the initialize, we'll await for everything to open the box, and then so that we can get the email and set email as well. Perfect. So here get emails, send emails, authenticate, and test not required basically. So the entire logic for the backend is written as well. One last thing that we have to do for the email manager. So inside the email manager, we have to make some functions here. So let's quickly make that. So basically what we'll be doing, we have a package. If you go to simple Gmail, there's a package here that is originally from this person. Basically this is from this guy Jeremy, and this is the package that has 226 stars on the GitHub repository, and this I will be using to getting the emails, to sending the emails very easily. So first things first, add the package in your project. So I will be installing the package simple Gmail. Let's install the package quickly. Once that is done, here we will be assigning our Gmail object. So self.gmail object. We will import the Gmail, and here, as you can see, if we go in the source code, we'll be passing this file as gmail token.json. So this file we have to pass. The problem right now is that we have the Gmail payload and it requires us to pass it as a file. So let's create a temporary file just for this thing, and then we'll delete it after that. Alright, so here what I have done is I have made a random name JSON file, and we'll be opening that file and then writing the Gmail payload on that. Then we'll assign it to the Gmail object so that we can make an object, and then we will remove our OS file as well, so that it will not cause any issue. I'll import the string and random packages. Right, great. So this is the Gmail object. Now we can use this to fetch data. For example, if you want to retrieve messages, we can just use this get starred messages that will return us the starred messages. So I will paste that logic self.gmail and then get starred messages. Likewise, I will be doing for fetch send message as well. So get sent messages and get messages will get us from the inbox. Perfect. Now we are getting the messages here, and the messages data type is as list of messages. Okay. Now let's go to this message and let's go to the message model. So in the model, we have these things that we can use, right? So here what I will be using, so message dot recipient, then we will be needing subject, so message dot subject, Then we'll be needing the date time, so message dot date. Then we'll be needing body, so message dot, and we have option for HTML as well as plain text. So we can go with HTML also, but for now let's go with plain. And in the name, okay, so the name we don't have here. I bet it will be in the headers. So for now, let's make it as empty string, and what we will be doing, print messages 0 dot headers, and find out if we have the name detail as well. Perfect. So this messages we will map whatever data we want accordingly and then return it back to the front end. Makes sense. So here name we can pass with the help of headers. So you can see that every message has a header as well. So if I go and messages, you can see that, let me go and show you here inside the get message model with the main, you can see that here the attributes have a headers as well right here, which is a dictionary. So we are going to use that messages dot headers. Now this is a dictionary file and I logged it out here, so you can see that logged data as well, right? So it is one of the email. So let me just copy that, and what I'll do is I will extract the key here. So I'll go here and I'll make it from. Also the email we have subject, we have date, time, body, name, right? This will work just fine. So now our backend is almost done. Also in the main.py, I have added this part, that is registered tortoise. What it will do is that as you know that we are using the tortoise ORM, so we need to initialize that as well. So I am using SQLite, but we can use any database, any relational database here, like Postgres or anything, just link we have to pass for that. So I made a db.sqlite file, as you can see right here. It will automatically make that, and then with the help of models, it will search for the models folder, and then from the init.py it will take whatever model we have and update that inside our database, right? So just these lines of code we need to add. Awesome. So now let's check if our API works or not. So I'll open up the Postman. So here, as you can see that I have my authenticate URL and I'm passing the email and the Gmail payload. This Gmail payload we will capture from our app later on. So if I hit send now, you can see that user authenticated successfully and it will store our email and the Gmail payload. After that, we can get the emails by using Yash Makan. So whatever email you have and the request type we can pass as 0, 1, 2, like we have coded in our app as well. Based on that, it will fetch the inbox, fetch sent messages or fetch starred messages. So based on that, it will work. Makes sense. All right. So here, as you can see, we will be having our messages. So what I will do, I will make it by default as none, as empty list. So let's hot reload, right? And now I'll try to hit this API. And yeah, so as you can see, these are the emails that I am getting. So 1, 2, 3, 4 emails I am getting, right? And with each of the email, you can see that we are getting the name, the date, time, subject, and the body. Works perfectly, right? So we can easily get the emails and send email as well. Now, since our backend is ready, let's move on with our Flutter application, right? So here, as we have already initialized our local DB, so what I am going to do is that I'm going to go to the email list screen, and in the init state, I'm going to check if the local DB dot email is equals to null. If it is null, then what we will be doing here, we will be doing get authentication token and store email. So it will get the authentication token and store the email. So let's work on this function now. So here I'll create one method, and here inside that we will be using a Google library to authenticate with, right? So inside the get authentication token and store email method, I have already written the code, right? So we'll be checking out that. So firstly, we'll be needing some extra packages for this. So already we have added the Hive Flutter. So what I have additionally added is the Google sign-in package, Firebase core, and the HTTP for the API calling. So we know HTTP and it is pretty basic. Firebase core we are using for the initialization inside our main.dart. So in the main.dart, I have added the firebase.initialize app, and then for that we have the Firebase core package, right? So it will initialize our application as well. Also, we have our Google sign-in. So this is the Google sign-in package. So this is like the main package that we will be using to fetch the details after the sign-in. Awesome. So first what I'll show you is, let's go to the Arc, and here you can see that this is the Google sign-in package. If you haven't integrated Google sign-in before, I can quickly show you how you can do that. For Android, there is not much of configuration that you have to do, but for iOS, there are some configurations that we have to make. Before that, I have also made a Firebase project. So if I go here, you can see that this is the Firebase project that I have already made for the email mobile application, right? And it is made for Android, iOS, and multiple platforms as well. So if you want to make an app here in the project in Firebase, just click plus, click Flutter, and then it will show you all you have to do. So Flutter Fire CLI you can use and then make your own project. I have already done that, and all of the setup is done. Once you have the app for that particular platform, you are good to go. Then what you have to do inside the authentication, you have to enable the sign-in method, and here choose provider as Google, because here we want the Gmail login. So Google login we want. Okay, once that is done, you have to enable that, right? And here you can see your web SDK configuration, client ID and client secret. These two details we'll be using later in this video, so make sure you have that as well. Okay, once this is done, your Firebase work is done. So you can close that, and let's move over to our Google sign-in package. Now for the iOS configuration, first we need to register the Firebase. That I have already explained how to do it. Then we have our Google service info.plist that will be automatically generated by the Flutter Fire CLI. So you can find that inside the iOS, and then inside the Flutter, and okay, not in Flutter, inside runner, and then here you can see Google services info.plist, and here you can see all of the information. Like I can show you the client ID, reverse client ID, API key. So all of the information for the project we have here. Makes sense. So this is added. Then what we have to do inside the Google service info.plist, we have to add server client ID. So I have added that in the bottom. You can see server client ID, and this is the client ID that we need to pass. Now whenever you are making the Firebase project, you can see here inside the web SDK configuration, we have our client ID. So just copy that and add it right here. Makes sense. Once this is done, you have to go over to your iOS and then iOS runner and then info.plist file. Here you need to add this array. So like here it is mentioned in the documentation as well. You need to pass this key cf bundle URL types with the array value, and here you need to pass reversed client ID as the value. Okay, so here I have copy pasted that. This reverse client ID you can find from the Google services info.plist, and here you can find it. Just copy from here and paste it inside the info.plist. Alright, so that is it for the iOS configuration as well. For Android, you don't have to do anything. It will work out of the box. Perfect. So this is done. Now let's see the source code, what we are doing. So in the init state, basically the local DB we are checking. If the email is null, then we will get authentication token and store the email, right? So this function we are calling. On calling that, we are assigning our object for the Google sign-in. So we will assign an object for Google sign-in with a scope for Gmail modification and Gmail settings basic. So these two scopes you have to pass here for reading and sending SMS for that user. So we need to ask permission for the use from the user that we will be accessing their email data. So once the object is made, then we will be signing in. So you have to use Google signin.signin method. Once that is done, we can fetch the user credentials from the current user.authentication. Once we have the user details, we can call the identity toolkit, that is a Google API right here, and then we can pass it the Firebase API. So this is one API that we are calling here. What it is basically doing, from the credentials, we are fetching some more information about the user. So it is saying return IPD credential as true, return secure token as true. So it will be fetching refresh token, expiry date, and much more information that we will be needing further. So here what you have to change is Firebase API, and the ID token we will be getting from the credentials that we have made earlier. So there nothing we have to change, just the Firebase API. So I have made a file in the constants strings.json. Here client ID, client secret, and Firebase API. So this Firebase API, client secret, and client ID you need to change based on your own project, and this Firebase API. So you can find this Firebase API right in your Firebase console. You can go to the settings and project settings, and here you can find your web API key. You can copy that and paste it inside the strings.dart file. Also, you can find it in the Google service info.plist as well. So here we have the API key. You can copy that and paste it in the strings, and that will work. So here Firebase API we have to pass. What it will do, it will fetch us some more details. So that more details we are storing inside our data variable, right? Now this is the payload that we will be sending to our own backend, right? So this is the thing that we will be sending to our own backend. Now, one thing to note that it is not at all recommended to store your Firebase API keys like that. It is better if you move this logic, this API logic that we have, to the custom backend that we have made in Python, right? And not store the Firebase API inside our front end keys, so that anybody can reverse engineer the app and then they can fetch these information out. So instead of storing it here, we can make this API directly inside our backend. So you can do that, but right now I'm not going to do that here. Okay. So here what we are doing, once we have additional information about the user, we are making a payload. So this is the payload that I will be sending for the authenticate API endpoint that we have made, right? So I'll open up the Postman. So here in the Postman, as you can see, for the authenticate, what we will be passing, the email and the Gmail payload right here, right? So this is the payload that we will be passing, and this Gmail payload is nothing but this is the payload. All right, so this API we will call next. So this is like the complete process for this. Let me show you the login as well. So I'll stop the app, and here let's add the API first. So once we have our payload, what we will be doing, we will call another API here, uri.parse http, and our backend is running on 10.0.2.2 because the localhost that we are running on for the emulator, it is 10.0.22. Awesome. So once we have that, what we will be doing is post and then await final response. Here we'll be passing port is 8000 and endpoint is authenticate. Authenticate is the endpoint. Now this is the payload that we will be passing. So here in the body, I'll pass that by encoding it JSON encode. Now this email also we will be having. All right, so for the email, I can do this. So Google signin dot current user dot email, and for the payload we have the payload, so I'll just pass that. So this is the response that we are getting. So this is the auth response that we are getting, right? And if the auth response dot status is not equals to 200, so if it is equals to 200, we will move forward. Otherwise, it will be an error. So here, what I will be doing, once it is authenticated, I will update our own local DB and I will set the mail ID. So here I will set it. Awesome. So here we have set email. All right. Perfect. So here you can see that if it is true, I am setting that. Else, we will throw an exception. Authenticate endpoint not working. Okay. So this whole process is done for the Google authentication token and store email. Let me run the app in iOS and show you how it works. So here you can see our app is open and it is asking that the email mobile application wants to use google.com to sign in. Continue I can do, and then you can see that it is asking for the sign in, and we can sign in and the whole process will work just fine. But for this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I will be cancelling this, and I'll open up the Android emulator. So I'll open the device manager, I'll open the Android emulator. So as you can see, the emulator is opened. So now after the authentication, what we have to do is that we have to fetch the emails, right? So here what I will be doing is, let's create some method for fetching the email. So fetch emails, it will take one argument that will be request type. So which ones you have to fetch? It can be 0, 1 or 2. So it will be an integer, right? Let's just say response is 200. Then what I will be doing is that I will be fetching our messages. So here you can see we have data. So response.body, let's JSON decode that. So JSON decode, and then from here I need data. Now this data will be a list of dynamic, right? And the value that I will give is data. Now what we have to do is that we have to loop over this data. So data.map, and then we have to make our model for the message. So inside our models.dart, here we have our email model, which will accept all this information, and we are returning our message model. So name, date, time, subject, body, email. Here is in name, date, time, subject, body, and we don't have an email here. So I will add a email final string email, and let's add that as well, and let's make it nullable. Okay, and this dot, that's right, email. Now what I'll be doing, this emails is no longer required, so I'll delete it from here. Makes sense, right? And let's do one thing, I'll keep it here, let it be here like this, empty list. Awesome. Then what we'll be doing is, here data map, we have our message. So message, okay. So here, okay, so it is email basically. So email dot, we'll be needing a from JSON here. So I'll create a factory method quickly for the email dot from JSON, which will take a map of, okay, map, and let's say it's JSON, and it will return us our email. So here inside our from JSON, now we can call this from JSON here. So from JSON, and we can pass the e and dot to list. All right. So this will be our list of emails. So I will just append it here. So awesome. So we have our emails, and it will just update. So here, once we are set all with the email, name, and the phone number, what I will be doing, I will fetch the email for our request type 0. All right. And if in the init state email is not equals to null, then also I will fetch the email 0. What it will do, it will fetch the email, store it in the emails, and then it will also call set state, because that is important. It will rebuild our UI as well. Okay, so there we go. We have our app bar. Here we are passing our emails. Now, based on that, what we have to do in the init state, So here you can see we have our tab controller. Let's add a tab controller dot add listener. So every time our tab is changed, we'll be knowing, right? So tab controller dot index we have. So based on the index, what we will be doing, we will be fetching the emails based on 0, 1 and 2, and it will update our email list that we have accordingly. So that will work just fine. And yeah, now here I'll make it as tabs dot length. How many tabs we have, this will work. So all right, let's do one thing and try this out. So I'll run the app now. And there we go. You can see that it is asking for my email address. So let me just quickly add that as well. So you can see that I am logging in, and the first time I am logging in. So that's why it's asking for a bunch of data here. Now it is saying that Google hasn't verified this app. The app is requesting access to sensitive information in your Google account. Until the developer verifies this app with Google, you shouldn't use it. So you have to click on advanced and there go to project this unsafe, right? So you have to go there because it is, the app is in development right now. That is why we are seeing that message. See all, we have to click, and then I'll scroll down and continue. So I am giving permission to for this particular email that I have to get and read and send email. So I will click continue here, and basically you can see that it is giving me an error signing in, no host specified. So actually instead of a colon, I added semicolon by mistake. So let me quickly fix that problem. So here HTTP, right. So let's hot restart once and try if it works. So it is saying authenticate endpoint not working. Let's see why. So I'll go to my PyCharm. It is saying me unprocessable entity. What it means here? So let's see. Here I am passing the JSON encode. The problem is that we have to pass headers as well to make it like a JSON value. So here we have to pass the content type application JSON. So I will add that in all of the APIs. So for the authenticate as well as for the get emails. All right, let's hot restart once again. So basically we are not getting any errors here in the logs. Get email API is called, and here we are getting the error HTTP error 403 when requesting this return Gmail API has not been used in this project or it is disabled. All right, so the Gmail API is disabled for this project. Then retry if this API. So because we haven't yet enabled the Gmail API for the Firebase project that we have made. So let's quickly go to this link, click on that link. It will open up the browser for us, and here we have to click enable. So that will enable the Gmail API for us. Right, so the Gmail API is now enabled. Okay, so let's try once again. So I will close my server and rerun it once again, and I'll hot restart the app as well. So let's go to the server and check how's everything going. So get email is called, it is loading, and there we go, we got some mails and we have an error as well. So here string is not a subtype of type date time. So this JSON date time what we are getting, let's quickly see that as well. So I will create a block body and print out the JSON to figure out the problem. So let's hot restart once again. Now we'll be seeing some of the emails that we are fetching here. So you can see that I can see the email from Google security alert because I just now logged in my emulator. So I'm getting that. So yeah, we have the name. Now this date time, we have to convert that. So what I will be doing, so basically what I've done is I've made a method here using the chat GPT. I just told it like we have to get dart date time to the date time object, and it gave me a method that we can use. So let's use this method here with the date time and see if it works or not. Right, so it will return the date time for us. It will take the string and give us the date time back. So let me run it once again. Okay, so we can surely see some of the emails here from my own account, from my own Gmail account, right? And you can see how many time ago we are getting the mails. So we have a image issue because as I mentioned earlier, inside our image we are passing an empty string. We'll be fixing that as well soon. And now I can scroll the body as well. You can make it like the entire scrollable thing as well, but that's up to you, right? So I can go left, I can go right, and I can see multiple images. Right now we are getting plain text as I mentioned earlier as well. Here you can see message.plain, but here I can change it to HTML as well, and then we can see HTML. And then using the pubdev HTML package that we have, let me show you that. So let's search here HTML Flutter. We have quite a number of packages here actually. So Flutter widget from HTML, yeah, this will work as well. So here we can pass the HTML to the HTML widget, and then it will give us back the entire widget as a widget, so that we can show images, videos, multiple things we can show here. All right. So reading is working just fine. From the PyCharm, here I have removed that. So let me hot reload quickly. And now let me go to the inbox. Right. So this will be the inbox we will be getting. And let me go to the star and no data. I'll go to sent and there are some data. I'll go to the inbox and we here also have data. So you can see that we can fetch our own email. So I'll compare it to you as well. I'll open up my inbox. Right. So you can see my emails as well. So here you can see finish setting up, second email, this one. Emoji is not rendering properly as you can see here. This is the emoji. Updating our Google. So if I go next, so security alert, I am getting one security alert. So this email we got 3 times. So in the Gmail inbox, it is showing as 1, but actually we got 1 before that security alert. Then dextro posted. So this one also we have here. This your highlights. Okay, PlayStation, something it is. So yeah, we are getting the messages. You can see I don't have any starred messages. So let me quickly add that a star. So what I will do, we have one Firebase message here, legal notice. So I'll make it star, and you can see now it is inside my starred. So now if I go back in the app and I go to star, I should be able to see my Firebase message as well. So it is real time communication is happening with the Gmail inbox we have, as well as with our email application. So the limits are endless basically. I just showed you the top of the iceberg here. But basically, if you go to the backend inside our email manager, for each of these email, for example, for any particular email, if you want to add a label, if you want to archive that, if you want to get the CC, BCC, if you want to mark it as important, mark it as not important, as a spam, unread, move from inbox and move to inbox. So we have multiple functions that we can achieve on a particular mail as well. And we can add multiple functionalities inside here as well. Right. Also, when we are getting the messages, we can get spam messages, draft messages as well. Right. So let's do, so this is the reading part. Let's now focus on sending as well. Will I be able to send email as well? So I can go to the send here. I can mention my email address, subject, description, and then on clicking the send, it should be able to send my email address. So let's go back, and here send email logic is not yet written. So what I'm going to do is that I'll be going on to the Arc, and I will be going to the simple Gmail repository. You can find it in my GitHub account, and which is actually forked from this particular repository from Jeremy, right? So I haven't made the project, Jeremy has made it, but I have forked that in my own profile. So basically, sending a mail is quite easy. What we have to do, send message we have to do, and then we can pass multiple parameters. So inside here, let me just paste that, and here self dot send message, and that's it. We don't have to do anything else. So this to email, I will set it right here, right? And this sender will come from here. So let's go back to sender, and here let's add sender as well, and that will be our request.email. I'll hot reload this, I will run it, and you can see email is successfully sent. Let's see in my inbox. So I'll go to my sent here in my inbox, and you can see yashmakan.work2 test body test01. So we are able to send the email as well. Really great. So we just now have to implement this API inside our app as well. Right. So I will open up the Android Studio, and inside the send screen, what I will be doing first, let's create controllers. Now I won't be focusing on some validations, right? So I'll just pass the controller here. So let's remove the const and email. Works pretty well. Next that we have here is our text field for the subject. So let's add our controller here as well. Controller subject, add a const, and then for the description as well, let's create our controller body. All right, so description, I'm not sure, let's see the name. Okay, so I have spelled it wrong. Okay, so let's name it as body. Alright, so now on clicking the send button, what we have to do is basically we just have to here, not actually here, so send button, yeah, right here we have to call our API. So in the list screen I will copy this logic part that we have, so I'll copy that and let's paste it. It will be asynchronous. I will import the HTTP package. I will import the type convert package, and here the local DB will require. And other than that, we will be required to send email as well. And let's go back to our postman, and this and all extra details we will be needing. So I'll first add a question mark, sorry, comma, and format the code. Then I will paste this information here. To email is nothing but the email.text, subject.text, and you guessed it, body.text. Once it is done, we don't have to do anything. We'll just print out email sent else throw exception unable to send the email at the moment. All right, so let's try it out, right? So let me hot reload the app. I'll put my email address, so yashmakan.work@gmail.com is there. So here inside our email address, what I'll do, I'll append @gmail.com. Okay, not here, inside our to email address, and I'll make it as interpolation string. Perfect. Subject. Now subject we have to require. So this is another test to check sending from app. Test 1, 2, 3. Now I'll clear it. Send, I'll click. Okay, so unable to send the email at the moment I'm getting. So it's getting 405 because it is a method of type put, not post. Let's hot reload now. Hit send. Okay, email sent successfully. All right. So to check, let's go back, hit over to the sent tab, and here we should be able to see our email that just now we sent. So as you can see, this is another test to check sending from app, test 1, 2, 3. That's what we set here. So you can see that the reading working perfectly fine, and sending also we can do. So we can fetch the emails from different categories from my Gmail inbox, and I am able to draft emails and send them to particular users as well within our Flutter application. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, make sure to like it and subscribe my channel, because that will really help the channel to grow further, and I'll be able to make more informative videos like this. I hope you learned something, and I personally enjoyed making this video, and I personally learned a lot more about the Gmail API. If you have any doubts or suggestions for my future videos, then make sure to comment below that as well. I'll be happy to read them out. So with that all being said, I'm Yash Makan. Peace out.